Man, I didn't think we'd be doing the same thing over again, but, I guess this was kind of inevitable. I just muted my TV after the Canucks and the Oilers, wherein the Oilers won 4-2, because after this game finished, in what was essentially an Edmonton Oilers staple, you have Connor McDavid with the Pavel record, you have the Oilers with all these wins, they're continuing their playoff pursuit, they're in the top 3 in the Pacific, whatever. The Oilers won 4-2, yet after this game concludes, the first few minutes of the panel are just Bieksa, Amber, Hrudey, and Friedman talking about the Vancouver Canucks coach. And they do a gosh darn good job doing so. They went over and reviewed the entire outpouring of emotion from Vancouver to the heart of Bruce Boudreau and everything that Bruce had done as a member of the Canucks as well, how that impacted the fans here in this city. They shared some stories and they talked about how Bruce Boudreau really is a guy that's probably going to have an opportunity or two, or maybe multiple, heading into the next little while here at the NHL level still because of how he had handled this situation in Vancouver. Again, if you want to watch what we had talked about yesterday, just reviewing the entire thing, what happened and all that, you can go ahead and watch the yesterday post-game video against Colorado. But this game against the Oilers, I feel like you can copy and paste a lot of that Bruce Boudreau stuff and just replay it here. But at the end of the day, this was a different hockey game. It's just the circumstances at the very end were very emotional. Like, as Elliot Friedman said, that was tough to watch. The Canucks, down 4-2 at the end of regulation, end up losing the game, straight up. But the fans, y'all in Rogers Arena did not disappoint, because everybody in there, it seemed, was chanting out at the top of their lungs towards the end of that game where the Vancouver Canucks were losing, "Bruce, there it is." And there were "Bruce, there it is" chants throughout the entire game, pretty much. Even when the team was down 3-0, even when the team was looking pretty bad, you still had the fans in there contributing their support to the coach and the situation with the Canucks over here. And Bruce, we know he's an emotional guy. We know he's a relatable guy. He's a very happy-go-lucky, positive guy. And he's a very fun guy to talk to in his interviews and just acknowledge that he is the guy at the head of the ship of your hockey team. He started tearing up. He waved to the fans. He didn't even leave the bench for a few seconds while the game had been over. He just kind of stood there, took in the moment, looked out to the fans of Rogers Arena, and gave a heartfelt wave off into the sunset. That was emotional, dude. Like, of course, a part of me is sort of happy that the Canucks lost because, okay, tank for Bedard, they're losing more games, etc., but, at the end of the day, part of me also says, man, what if the Canucks just pulled one out? What if they pulled out a win? What if they were able to get it done for Bruce? What if they were able to score while they were on the 6-on-5 with the empty net towards the end of regulation? Let's say they make it 3-3 and then maybe they win in overtime or something. How crazy would that have been? I know I just said I'm okay with the team losing because of Connor Bedard, but I, like many of you, probably, we could have put those Connor Bedard emotions aside for one night if it meant that Bruce Boudreau got himself a home victory sometime in overtime or whatever, but instead, the team ends up giving out the empty net goal to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It is yet another rush with no contest, and the Canucks gave up a few odd-man rushes here in this game. It's kind of a bad pattern that they have. Even the ones that got saved up by Spencer Martin, they still came in such a high quantity that, watching this team, you understand that the product on the ice is not good enough to be a playoff contender. Rick Tocchet is likely going to come in here the next few days and shape up the team. Kevin Bieksa shared an anecdote on the panel today about how when Alain Vigneault took over from Mark Crawford in the Canucks era, when he was breaking into the league, when he, as in Bieksa, was breaking into the league, there was some sort of a breaking down of all the assets that were on the team at the time. Alain Vigneault put everybody through the ringer. He tested them. He pushed them to their limits. He saw which players bent and which players broke. The ones that broke, sayonara. The ones that bent and stuck around were able to improve from that. Hey, we're keeping you on, and we're building this team around you guys. Rick Tocchet might be able to do something similar as a brand new coach coming into a team that has been defined by many insiders as a quote-unquote country club because the culture in that room needs changing up. And even though Rick Tocchet may not be a guy that goes out there and improves the team's season so that they make the playoffs or whatever, at the very least there will be some form of change, and we'll see how that affects the roster on the ice. Now, of course, I, like many other Canucks fans, we want change outside of the locker room. We want change from a managerial perspective. Hey, make some trades. Get more draft picks, get prospects, get younger, rebuild, sell the team, Francesco. But, starting out slowly here. We'll see what happens after everything goes down. But for right now, the moment here belongs to Bruce, and the Vancouver Canucks, unfortunately, had a really rough start in terms of the goals getting scored. I mean, they had some good shifts of their own. The very beginning of the game had 2 incredible scoring chances for the Canucks, and Vancouver did put the pressure on Stuart Skinner. It's just the goals that went in. It's Connor McDavid on a breakaway. He scores. It's 1-0. It's Connor McDavid to Zach Hyman in front. It's 2-0. Okay, not great to see the 2-man odd-man rush come out there. You have the next goal of the game where Leon Draisaitl gets a beautiful pass in front and he hammers it 5-hole. The Canucks do not do a good job at shutting down the Edmonton Oilers. However, they do get shut down themselves, sort of. They had a few opportunities in there. There was a Studnicka to Peterson one-timer on a 2-on-1 that was stopped by Stuart Skinner. But it's kind of odd, because just like my Hutchamps runs seem to be going nowadays, the Canucks seem to have gotten better as this game went on. As they got more comfortable, and as they kind of got a little bit numb to the Oilers and their odd-man rushes and their speed, etc., etc. It's Quinn Hughes who starts things off for Vancouver, throwing a pass up the wall to Elias Pettersson. From the Canucks zone up to the Edmonton blue line, Petey takes it. He throws it into the middle for Kuzmenko, who has a breakaway, and he scores 5-hole. It's 3-1. And then in the third period, you had yourselves JT Miller with a blast from the point. An absolute bomb of a one-timer that goes right by everybody. It's assisted by Quinn. It's also assisted by Bo, I believe. And it's 3-2 Vancouver at this point. The Canucks then get scored on themselves when it is Zach Hyman who kind of interferes with Spencer Martin. We all think it's 4-2, but Bruce Boudreau says no. Goalie interference. He makes the challenge, and after an extensive process of them reviewing the tape, it ends up being called off. It's still 3-2. This goal does not count. The Bruce there it is chance, which were already raining pretty heavily throughout the building earlier in the night, started going like crazy at this time, and then the Oilers scored again after the Canucks pulled the goalie and they had some zone time, and the Oilers were able to clear it out pretty effortlessly. I mean, a few mistakes by the Canucks on the half-board is ultimately what led to the Nugent-Hopkins breakaway on the empty net. 4-2 is the score, but if you're a Canucks fan and you're listening to this video, you don't care about that. You don't care about the game. You care about Bruce. Because this team, after dragging out this process for so long, having Bruce held out as the coach of the team while having his replacement just right there on the doorstep, it's been so bad, and I don't need to talk about it. We already discussed this at length yesterday, but either way, you can talk to me in the comments on your thoughts about the Canucks and the Oilers, the fact that the Canucks ended up losing again, Connor Bedard sweepstakes reigned true, and Bruce Boudreau ultimately had a heartfelt send-off on what is likely going to be his last game as Canucks coach. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.